Oof. Unfortunately, there's no easy way to just kind of like plug and play these streams these days, because it's either incredibly hot during the day, like right now. My phone will probably start giving me the message of overheating in about a minute, or under, in fact. And the rest of the time it's raining. And when it's raining, by the way, it's not particularly cold either. The last couple of days, in fact, specifically last couple of days, it wasn't even all that hot, as it was just stupidly humid. You like couldn't do anything. It's humid now, but not as like this morning we legitimately had like fog, due to how humid it was, because it wasn't even a fog. It was just that it was so humid you could see, water. It was like 99.9. It was ridiculous. It was like standing in a cloud. Essentially, that's what it was. It wasn't fog. It was a cloud. You were inside. So yeah. Anyway, fun times. I don't really have too many things to report, except for that last musical draft I was talking about, which I deemed Measurable Illusion, is out. I don't remember when I dropped it. I think Saturday, maybe last Saturday, so just a couple days ago. And funnily enough, when I was uploading it, I noticed when I uploaded the previous one, and it told me it was 3 weeks ago. Now, the way stuff like that works, if you don't actually look into it deeper, it might have been all the way to like 3 weeks and 6 days, and I'm pretty sure YouTube still tells you it's 3 weeks ago. But anyway, so it was definitely at least between 3 weeks ago and 4 when I uploaded the previous one. So not even once a month, over one a month, basically 2 a month. That's a ton. That's a ton of music for somebody who isn't even doing it full time. And yeah, those drafts, unfortunately, I was relatively limited in my in the intricacies of sound design that I would like to pursue now, because I was doing the whole thing on Core Gadget. So that definitely saved me some time, some pretty big limitations. But in addition, of course, just generally when you work there, you can work so quickly. But it's not even Korg gadget in general. It's also just me. I work pretty fast because I've been doing what I'm doing for a long time. In fact, if anything, I gotten slower with years, because I have gotten better. I've gotten more methodical. I've learned of things I simply didn't. I had no idea. Fucking flies. I simply had no idea. 10 years ago, for example. So there's kind of like more things to juggle now, more things to consider, more things to do. But the speed is approximately the same, maybe a little bit slower. So yeah, you compare the quality and the complexity of things that I do right now to what I was doing 10 years ago, and it's amazing that I've pretty much maintained the same time to output, the same input delay, or output delay rather. So yeah, that's one big thing. I'm already itching to make another one, because honestly, there's not a lot of things I wanna be doing right now other than music. Because with writing, it's mostly just waiting, waiting to see if what's it gonna be, what's gonna happen. And it's basically I just need to finish editing it myself, the last couple of chapters, and then if an agent decides that it's interesting, whether with the agent we're gonna be doing more passes, or we will end up doing additional passes with the publisher, like whatever, it's like that kind of process is now fast. That's why professional writers, quote unquote, write so goddamn fast, because they have multiple stages of editors, like one way or the other. It honestly doesn't matter. Like, I know that Stephen King, for example, somebody like that, or like whoever, probably pretty okay writers, but the truth is that there's no need to be. So I can only imagine how kind of like stress-free it is for them to output in general. Because it doesn't matter, before your book is published. First of all, if you're Stephen King, you don't pitch your books to publishers. Your publishers just pick them up. But in addition, even if you had to pitch a book to a publisher, when you're an established writer, perfectly well that there's going to be an editor, one way or the other, at the publisher. And those editors, they basically vary from just kind of like slight editing to completely redoing the whole thing, and then you get you get all the credit anyway. So, funnily enough, in literary publishing, it pretty much still works the same way you would expect it to work with other creative, areas of life, like music, for example, right? You would expect to be discovered for your potential, and then whoever gets to discover you, they invest in you, they hone you, right? They polish you and your material, and also, they make your music professionally or commercially presentable, yada yada, stuff like that. But it no longer works like that, of course. In the music these days, you are expected to have a fully commercially ready product by yourself. If you don't have the skills to make a commercially ready product, quality-wise, you feel free to just pay somebody to do that for you. Like your label is not going to do that for you. Like, they don't care. Maybe they can, help you to get to know somebody who can help you with that once you're part of their roster. But when you're applying to them, if your demo sounds shitty, they're gonna have no understanding for that. So, and additionally, you need to have audience built in, because having a built-in audience, having already a following of people, is the only way for a label to tell that you're doing something people want to hear anyway, because labels don't take risks anymore, and the biggest thing for them that points at you and says, hey, this guy takes risks, but those risks seem to be worth it, as if you're already successful in a way. And also because labels, they perfectly understand that quality basically in music doesn't exist anymore. Remember when all the American techno kind of artists were booming in America in the 90s or even early 2000s? When everybody loved to pretend to like Moby or Fatboy Slim type of stuff. Like, what the hell is it? It's not even like real music. It's just some DJ dude, you know, made some kind of remix out of sampling like one voice line or something like that. And it's like, people are legitimately into that? Like, what the hell is that? Like, people will buy whatever. You know, people will buy whatever. People will listen whatever. It's all about marketing. It's all about marketing, and it's all about what influencers say, right? MTV said all that shit back then was fucking bitching. And people said, well, we're supposed it's bitching then. Let's like it. You know? So people will like whatever they're told to like, and they will like whatever is in front of them, i.e. whatever is being pushed, whatever is being marketed. So labels understand that. Like, basically there's no point judging the quality of the music that's being pitched to us. It's all about whether there is an audience for it or not. And whether there's an audience or not, it's not for us to decide. It's, you know, if some stars aligned so that there is already popularity for that type of stuff, well, then we may work with it. But if there isn't, it's really not up to us to invest like $10 billion to see if it works. See if, you know, it catches on, so to speak, because we can do it with anything. Why would we do it with a stranger? You know, if we had like tens of billions of dollars to invest into the next Taylor Swift type of bullshit, for example, why would we do it with a stranger? Like, there's plenty of projects from our friends and, like, you know, and family that we could do it. Like, why would we do it with a stranger? It doesn't make any sense, because the quality of your material doesn't matter, really. It's just, you know, if somebody has the interest in quote-unquote starting a project, it's like opening a business. You know, starting a commercial project, starting a commercial, like, music project, business type thing. It's not about finding the right talent for it. It's about just picking whichever, you know, and putting money in it. That's it. So, like, when you pitch your music to labels just look at you and they say, whatever. Like, we just, like, just do just whatever. Like, honestly, it, like, none of this fucking matters. You know, you're being ridiculous. So, but with literary world, there's still this idea that, you know, most people, they cannot write. Because it's normal, you know, because people who could write in the past, who established all the current modern standards, like Tolkien, for example, you know, it took him like basically half his life to write the Lord of the Rings. And then he actually, other than The Hobbit, that is written in a completely different style, other than Lord of the Rings, right, and The Hobbit, that like borderline half doesn't count, he never actually finished any of the other books in the franchise, right? Christopher had to finish those. So, you know, unfortunately, not all of us working for a university, a tenured professors at universities. Yes, I know, boo. Things might be biting if you're not moving too fast enough. Now, not all of us are tenured professors at universities and, you know, have basically unlimited time to finish whatever we want to finish. You know, most of us are going to be homeless and starving if we don't output something today. So, you know, times have changed. Times have changed to the point where basically, you know, people who really have the opportunity to be like full-time creators, big people with big ambitions and big processes that allow them to create something epic, it's just no longer viable in modern economy, unfortunately. It's like, before the 20th century, if you look at all the big writers, all the historical writers, like the classics, so to speak, doesn't really even matter what country you're looking at. You look at those people, and what do you know? They're all elites. All of them. All of the, like, Russian classics, all of them are people of the elite. Why? Because, well, those were the only people, first of all, with the education to even know how to write. That's first of all. Second, they were the only people who had time to write. Because the others, were serfs, were slaves. They had no time to write. They had farming to do. So we're kind of going back to the same principle now, actually, because, well, Aini, what the hell are you doing? Come on. Because who has time to write the next Lord of the Rings if we can see that, for somebody like Tolkien, who was a fucking genius of writing, it took him like half his life basically to write it. Okay. Well, it's safe to assume that most of us are not as genius as Tolkien, but we could probably produce something just as good if we maybe had not 20, but say 25 years or 30, Wouldn't that also be great? If it took us maybe a bit longer and maybe the final product was not quite as nice, but it would still be something epic. I think that would be pretty bitching. But yeah, no, unfortunately, that is just physically impossible. So everyone understands that people basically cannot write because there's no time to write anymore and there's no just physical opportunity to write. And I think in the literary world, there's a pretty good understanding of, maybe the manuscript is a bit rough, but the idea is solid. So what if we just kind of like try making something out of it? It's like pitching your movie to a studio, right? Like the studio is going to end up putting their own spin on it. The final project will be majorly shaped by the kind of resources the studio decides to allocate to it. But so essentially, they have to judge not whatever value your project brings to them right now, today, and here. They have to judge the potential for it, i.e. basically you're pitching an idea. You don't pitch the actual final thing. And that's something that doesn't exist anymore in the world of video games, for example. And ideas basically don't matter. Monies are just given to friends only. Because look at most AA and indie games that come out right now. They are, like, most of them are probably worse than the majority of the AAA, quadruple A slop, right? So how the hell are those games being made? Why are those games being made? Who's playing them? What's the intended audience for that indie slop? Rainbow, cartoony, whatever, like BS. Like what type of businessman, what type of entity with money, sit down at one point, listened to what kind of game was being made and thought, yep, I want to give those people $5 million. Yep, that sounds like a video game for me. Like, it's bullshit, it just doesn't happen anymore. It just doesn't happen anymore. Actually judging, something, actually pitching something to somebody. It's just money being exchanged between friends, and in fact, it's borderline money laundering probably in most cases. Because those people with money probably perfectly understand that your whatever dust-born thing that you're trying to do, it's not gonna sell like worth of shit. But if I I have these 5 mil that may not necessarily be all that clean. What if I give you 5 mil, you give me 4 back, and then you make whatever the fuck you were trying to do on the 1 mil left? Well, that's a pretty good deal for me, actually. So it's just that, and most indie labels, indie music labels, pretty much feel the same way. If you really dig deep into the sphere of indie labels, most of them don't even have, like, most of them have artists who don't even seem to be real people. You know, it's like people who haven't published anything from 15 years ago, and even that one thing was like literally one single. And people who have published nothing but 2 EPs, and they have like 50 monthly listeners to Spotify. Just so you know, I have almost 6 times that. And like, oh, nah, that dude is signed to this label, but, you know, me, I'm sorry, you don't seem to be a fit for our roster, unfortunately. Yeah, right. First of all, I'm a perfect fit. Second, like, if you're not interested in me, but you're interested in that guy, then, like, what the hell is happening here? This is not even, okay, we're gonna get the person who's popular, you know, who already has an audience, rather than the guy who's good. It's not even that. It's like literally just like some random dude who is like barely even a professional musician. That's why I'm saying, you know, it feels like money laundering. It feels like whatever is happening here is just sussy AF. But in the literary world, it's, of course, clout. Stupid like academic clout, or stupid like identity cloud, you know, like I'm gonna write a book about gay stuff, and myself is gay as well, and it's just gonna be so important, guys, just gonna touch on so many important issues. Like, yeah, sure, you know, BS like that matters in the literary world, even in fiction, absolutely it does, but generally speaking, there's still this idea that, well, you may have a good idea, let's develop it, right? And pretty much no other segment of creative arts still has that, as far as I'm aware. And I don't know, maybe there is something I'm missing, but, you know, the things of which I used to be part of, which is video games and music, still part of those, but video games is largely in the past, and music is just in amateur capacity. And of course, I write in amateur capacity as well, just technically, you know, definition-wise, but like with, I at least, you know, I write as if I imagine my book being like sold. And with music, I just do what I like. I just do what I want at this point, because and what I want is stuff that is interesting. You know, if people were actually listening to my music, I would probably consider maybe going back to making, you know, more dynamic, more groovy music, because groove does not necessarily mean cringe. You know, groove does not mean, you know, weak, because the post-honesty culture of Zoomers. No, actually grooves can be bitching, right? But if you're the kind of person who listens to like 80s thrash metal and says, ooh, dude, this is like too on the nose. Like, you cannot make a riff that goes like, this is just like so cringe, dude. Like, yo, dude, the real groovy, you know, fucking riff needs to go like this. Kind of like gent/dubstep, whatever type of stuff. Like, that is metal, dude. But like Master of Puppets, like, what the fuck is this? You know, like what the hell is that? It's just cringe, man. You know, Testament? Whatever. Low by Testament? Dude, this is fucking cringe. Guys, cringe is Nickelback. Like when Nickelback first transitioned into post cringe, post grunge. Like listen to those riffs. Now that's cringe. You know, the entire genre of post grunge, you know, is based on riffs that are cringe. But yeah, I mean, because that's real music, you know. That's how music was created, and that's how music got big eventually. Like, why do you think rock and metal music was just dominating everything for almost half a century, but it all just died because Nirvana came up. Nirvana came up, and they killed honesty, they killed energy. You know, they basically single-handedly created this whole kind of like a Radiohead type of bullshit. And all the metal and rock bands and musicians, they realized that, oh, we need to start doing something like that also. And you got, you know, over the 90s, most traditional metal bands, well, first it led to the creation of groove metal and new metal, of course, which are very adjacent genres. But that shit pretty much died too, because, you know, groove and new metal were originally essentially, they were just whatever dubstep is today, you know, or was until a few years ago. Fads die so quickly now because none of them are real music. You know, Pantera was doing real music. Yeah, cringe, of course. I mean, like the fucking Walk. Are you for real? Like Walk riff. It's not even a real riff. Like, what the hell is like, what is this? Is this a riff? Like, what the hell? You know, Korn. I love Korn, but some of the riffs by them aren't even riffs. It's just like the open 6th or 7th. I think they probably use not down-tuned 7th, but slightly down-tuned. Sorry, they probably not use completely down-tuned 6 strings. They probably use slightly down-tuned 7 strings. But like anyway, so the lowest string just being kind of, you know, strung a little bit occasionally. Like ta da 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 da, maybe, you know, ta da da, something like, it's, you know, and that's a riff by Korn. But like, whatever, you know, they had some intention behind that music. Had some intention behind it, you know. Dubstep and other stuff like that is just big for one day and then it completely dies. Funny I should bring up Korn, because Korn, you know, tried to dabble in dubstep. That was interesting. Heine, what are you doing here? Okay. Yeah, I wouldn't mind doing music like that again, honestly. It's just that no one's listening to music like that anymore. You know, nobody wants harmonics. Barely anyone even does melodies these days. And I know that, by the way, oh, I'm not wearing the t-shirt. But okay, I had an appropriate t-shirt for that recently. Nirvana was not the first, you know, band to kind of like, you know, make apathy, you know, great again. Obviously, we had like dark wave. Obviously, we had goth rock, you know, before Nirvana. But those things were still hugely harmonic and hugely melodic. And it was with Nirvana, and then later really popularized by Radiohead, because Nirvana didn't last that long, right? And then Radiohead like really popularized this thing where there's basically no harmonics. It's just one bass note the entire song, and no chord progression, no harmonics. And there's basically no melodies because, well, technically what is happening in this song is a melody, of course, but that melody is just so stretched, right? So stretched, Muse style. Ever listen to Muse? Muse technically has melodies in their music, like vocal melodies, I mean. But they're so stretched, it's essentially just, you know, dude taking one note and stretching it for like 16 bars. It's not a melody. I'm sorry, it's not a melody. It's just like a progression of notes maybe, but that's not a real melody. So, all that stuff, you know, that's what you kids are listening to these days. That's what you kids been listening to ever since like 2016. Sorry. 2006 or maybe even 2007. That's all your kids been listening to. You know, like compare the first 3 albums by Slipknot, or even just take the third one. The third one is actually by far the most melodic one, right? I mean, at that point, it was by far the most melodic. Compare, like, what's it called? Vermilion, right? Or something like that. The one with Duality, right? So the third album by Slipknot. I actually haven't listened to it all that much because like, second and the first one were like so much better. And then the fourth album comes out, and it has some stupid name like All Hope Is Gone or something like that. I think it's called. It's the one with Psychosocial, which is actually the song that most Zoomers know is the only song by Slipknot they know. And it's a bitching song, don't get me wrong. Although it's cringe how the song transitions into like, you know, like softcore, you know, porn, softcore porn, whatever you call it, chorus. Like, the album came out, I think it was 2009 or 8, or maybe even 10, something like that. Like, dude, we were so past this whole bullshit of, you know, you do aggressive verse and then like super melodic, super soft chorus. You know, that's like stupid metalcore trend. Guys, we were so past that when Psychosocial came out as a single. Like, anyway, so the whole album, the whole fourth album by Slipknot is just some postmodern like art exhibition bullshit. No riffs are groovy, it's just like random notes, you know, arranged into riffs. All the melodies are some kind of like weird, you know, art rock type of just like exhibition. Like, it's like, it's borderline like experimental progressive music. It's not groovy. It's not melodic, it's not harmonic, it's not nothing. It's just kind of like slightly sped up gent or something like that, right? And that's where basically it all died. And then, of course, we had the infamous or famous, because a lot of people now retroactively like to pretend it's a great album, the follow-up to Meteora by Linkin Park, right? Well, that album was a doozy. So basically, you know, the whole thing just fucking died at one point. And ever since then, I mean, it was cringe. The whole new metal scene was, like, don't get me wrong, it was pretty cringy. I mean, compare it to, like, real metal, right, of early 90s. Or not even necessarily early 90s, because, don't you forget that Death was a 90s band, right? So while we had bands like Motley Crue and Guns N' Roses and like Dokken and whoever the fuck completely selling out, Metallica completely selling out in the 90s, while we had that stuff, don't forget that, you know, a lot of Testament was in the 90s, a lot of Death, pretty much all of it. When was Death's first album? Basically, the entirety of Death was in the 90s, you know. So Like, metal wasn't fully dead in the 90s, but it definitely became pretty dead ever since the development, quote-unquote, of groove metal. It very quickly became new metal. And it's just like, yeah, dude, whatever. You know, it's when metal became kind of like, not necessarily big and popular again, it's just when metal completely transformed into this kind of like weird, you know, BS, kind of like somewhere halfway the rap culture and metal culture. You might say, well, no, wait a second, Korn didn't have any rap, and dude, the entire aesthetic of Korn is based on, like, you know, like ghetto, whatever, like R&B or whatever, hip-hop culture. Like, their whole aesthetic is not really metal. The whole aesthetic is like, you know, like ghetto blaster stuff. So, yeah. So we have Meteora, that whatever the album that followed Meteora. We had the 4th album of Slipknot. That's when, like, last hope, like, all hope is truly dead. Like, Slipknot was right, I think. All hope is gone, or something like that. All hope is dead, something like that. What a shitty album, Jesus Christ. And yeah. But still, you know, I wouldn't necessarily mind doing music like that. It's just that, believe it or not, it takes a lot of effort, you know, to make something that is like properly polished to be bitching. And I've already done all kinds of bitching, you know. I've done bitching electronic, I've done bitching metal, I've even done rock and a bit of indie rock. And it's all cool, it's all cool, it's all cool. But I also like to really challenge myself sonically. And unfortunately, the way those challenges usually go, you end up with something slightly less musical than you would have done otherwise if you were doing music kind of like traditionally. So that's where my current direction is taking me. And I think maybe somewhere at the end of this direction, there can be a nice synergy of something that is sonically progressive and melodic and harmonious at the same time. I'm looking at doom metal, something like a hub, for example, which I discovered somewhat recently, and it quickly became like one of my favorite fucking things that I have ever heard. So we'll see what's gonna happen with music, but one thing I know for sure is that I'm not really trying to appeal to anyone anymore, because it's just pointless. So I don't consider myself professional, because I don't even care to produce my own music anymore, to engineer it, you know. Last 2 things that I released, I purposely released as just direct exports from Core Gadget. You know, if there are any fans out there who find my style appealing, you can check my, like, this is what I'm currently working on. Okay, whatever. If you want it properly produced and quick, feel free to, you know, send me money. I'll definitely do something about that. But if not, like, this is it. Because, guys, it's just too giant a waste of time. It takes like a day or 2, 3 tops to write a song, write a track, and then another day or 2 to properly arrange it, and then it's like another week or 2 to properly mix and master it, and then no one hears it ever. Like, I am done with that whole process. I'm sorry. You know? So yeah, but it is not 100% like that in the world of literature. It is there's still a bit of a spark of like, yeah, we cannot expect from you to have like a fully published, so like a fully polished, manuscript that's just ready for print. People are generally more open-minded to just kind of like, well, we're gonna have to finish this together. This is not all it can be, and stuff like that does not happen in music. In music, in order to have a label support, at which point, why do you even need it? Like, I have no idea what labels, like, if I had even like 1,000 followers, I have no idea what a label could help me with. Like, introduce me to another 1,000 followers? Guys, if I had 1,000 followers, that number would be in constant geometrical, right, exponential growth. Like, I can either align myself with a label for some reason, or I can just keep doing what I'm doing, and I'll get gradual exposure to the new audience one way or the other. Like, I have no idea what labels are even for, because all labels doing right now, they gatekeep audiences, niche audiences, right? Because people who are into specific kinds of music can no longer just get it from the algorithm or like search options of the internet, because the whole internet was just completely segmented, and search no longer works, and algorithms just give you like Mr. Beast and PewDiePie or DJ Khaled, something like that, or H3H3. That's it. That's all algorithms give you. So you can no longer basically discover new stuff. So if you want to discover new cool stuff, you have to find a label that is somewhat aligned with cool bitching stuff, and then just follow them. And it's not a crap ton of people, but for someone like me, if there were 1,000 people I could get access to, it would change my life. So that's what labels have now, and that's what labels are uniquely offering these days, because labels don't really uniquely offer anything else other than maybe the ability to have a physical release for your album. But then again, if you actually had somebody to sell that physical release to, you could do it yourself. You could find somebody who could help you with that. You could find an illustrator. You could find people who can do a vinyl mastering for your record. You can do it. You don't need a label for that. So one thing, labels, obviously you don't need labels to distribute your music to iTunes anymore. That's been a thing since fucking forever ago. So like, it's not even obvious what labels can really do for you right now at all, if you already are doing okay. But unfortunately, that's the only type of people labels are interested in. Yeah, labels could do a lot to people who are struggling, but that's not what they're in the business for right now. Labels have constantly been on the wrong side of history. Labels have never done like the right thing by the musicians at no era of history. Yeah, fun times. And my hopes are not super high regarding the literature world, but it's like the last thing that I know of where people may still see your thing and kind of scratch their chin and think about the potential that thing might have. Because this no longer happens in video games, this no longer happens in music. It will rain soon, if not in literally 20 seconds, then maybe in 5 minutes. So this is just as good a time as any other to end this. And yeah, so keep working on music and stuff. Had to majorly restructure everything on my iPad recently, by the way. My next thing is not going to be a core gadget thing, but it will still be an iPad thing, but it will feature so many synthesizers. I put in approximately 2 days of work, like legit, to find stuff basically for Cubases. I'm going to be using standalone synths that are real synths, and do it through Cubases. Why was it such a big deal for me? Well, because I have an older iPad, so borderline nothing can be installed on it, right? So I had to find, and the funniest thing, so I had to jailbreak my iPad to get even Core Gadget on it, right? Because I cannot get Core Gadget; it requires like higher iOS. But I used to own it officially, okay? I used to share an account with a friend, but well, it's the same friend with whom we had a studio together. But so I paid for it, but the account remained with the studio, and I was the one who left the studio. So I no longer had access to that account. In fact, I lost access to that account a while ago, even way before I left the studio. So like anyway, I had to jailbreak my account. I found one version of Core Gadget on the entire internet that actually worked, but then a bunch of other apps of musical nature, because I had to fully upgrade to the latest iOS possible on my iPad, which is iPad Air first generation. So it's 12.5.7. So the latest version of iOS 12 is the latest I can be on it, and I have to be on iOS 12 because I couldn't jailbreak otherwise. Basically, jailbreaks, unless you are on iOS 12, just no longer exist. And because I had to upgrade from iOS 8, I think, to 12, ever since 11, they dropped support for all 32-bit apps. 32-bit apps just no longer work on iOS 12, despite the fact that, like, on my processor, 32 bits like would work no problem, right? Because iOS all the way to 11 supported 32 bits. So a bunch of stuff just never got updated, is completely dead now on iPad, just in general. So thanks for that. But also, even if it was updated, but you don't have it right now on your account, you cannot download an older version. You cannot buy an older version. Yes, Apple will not allow you, unless it can be installed and working on your current iPad. But then you go on the interwebs and you look for older IPAs to install of those apps maybe, and the truth is that if that's an older version, now it will not work because it's too old. It would have worked on my iOS 8 or even 9 or even 10, but on 12 it will not work because it's an older version. 32-bit app will not work. So yeah, I actually would have had probably twice as many stuff as I do right now, if not for the stupid Apple ecosystem BS. But anyway, I do have enough sense right now to kind of like make a song, so to speak. The only problem now is switching between them is a complete fucking ass pain, of course. And also, I hope they can actually all function at the same time. But funnily enough, iOS is actually really good with it. I had so many synthesizers going into Cubases and being recorded at the same time. I had so many stuff happening like that at the same time, and my iPad never. I think once there was like one synth that crashed, but then I reopened the whole thing, and then the session actually survived. Like I could actually record like a whole session of like a dozen things working at the same time. It's ridiculous how good memory management is on iPads, and how not memory hungry those apps are. And even like CPU, yeah, you have like half a dozen stuff going into Cubases being recorded at the same time. Yeah, it doesn't particularly feel any slower. It's amazing, actually. But yeah, it would be, it would be kind of pushing it. It would be pushing it. Okay. So, definitely new music happening. But it takes time just to even set up, to do music. That's what I was talking about this whole time. So that's the message I was trying to hone. Okay. Flies and rain. Bye-bye. Okay, boo-boo. You ready to go?